Welcome to our September 24th meeting of the Finance and Audit Committee. In order to get started, I guess I'll call the meeting to order and ask Amber to conduct a roll call. Amber?
Thank you, Paul. All right, Adrian Cochran. You're on mute, Adrian. But
I couldn't unmute in time. I'm here.
Carol Dzinski.
Present.
Welcome back from vacay. Patamianos.
I'm here, thank you.
Mike Scott, Soltis.
I'm here.
And I don't think John or Alex have joined us. Nope, not yet. Great, we have a quorum. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Amber. So our first item of business is to review and approve the minutes from our July 23rd meeting. The minutes have been supplied to us. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions about those minutes. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Carol, second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes have been adopted. Thank you. Our next item of business is to turn things over to David so he can review our budget, give us an update on audit and hiring. So David, I'm going to turn it over to you for the next couple of agenda items. We'll start with the budget review. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us as always. We appreciate it. Okay. Start by sharing my screen. Can everybody see?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to go over the results for the month of August. During the month of August, the CTPL spent almost $2 million on operational expenses and bond funds. $1.5 million was spent from bond funds on the Aflac implementation. And we also spent $316,000 on salaries, benefits, and taxes for the month. Another $120,000 was spent for our contact center support team and $12,000 for our outreach efforts. And those were the major items we spent. You will note for the Aflac implementation, there is a negative variance. Not to be alarmed, the implementation fee was expected and intended to be spent in the prior fiscal year, but that spilled over to the current fiscal year. So we didn't overspend, or we're not out the $1.5 million in bond funds. It just spilled over from one fiscal year to the next. So on a cumulative basis, we're good. It just spilled over from one year to the other. Moving on to how we're doing cumulatively, the authority has spent $15.8 million so far. And our major items continue to be the usual ones we've discussed in the past. The employee contribution system has $7.7 million attributed to it. The claims and benefits system is the $1.5 million we just spoke about, $99,000 for chatbot. Salaries, benefits, and taxes are almost $2.9 million through August. Our support teams are another $1.5 million. Support for the employee contribution system from Slalom is a little over $757,000, and our outreach efforts are about $407,000. Those major categories make up 94% of the spending. We are better than budget through the quarter end of September by over $16 million. And that is due to the less than budgeted spending for bond funds. So we continue to be on target and spending our money very carefully. Talking a little more about bond funds, we still have $12.2 million allocated. To date, for August, we've spent $9.3 million on the employee contribution system, on the benefit claim system, and on chatbot, the details of which I just spoke about a few minutes ago. We do have another $400,000 that were intended to spending in September for continued work on the employee contribution system. So all in, that'll get us to spending almost $9.8 million of bond funds. So that will leave us about $2.4 million of bond funds left to spend going forward. Moving on to, hold on. Sorry, had to wait for Zoom to let me click on something. Moving on to our contribution activity. This is a new schedule for everyone to see, but the format is similar to how we show the operational expenses. So we just wanted to show you how our contribution activity is comparing to the contribution budget that was approved earlier in the year. So for the month of August, our contributions that came in were $1.6 million. August is a slow month because most employers or their TPAs like to pay when the money is due, which in this case will be the end of October. But we did get almost 1.6 million in this month, earned some interest, and we did pay $319,000 for a seed repayment. That was the amount we had budgeted, and we are paying a 16th of that every month until the seed money is ultimately due in October of 2022. As you can see in the last column, we are ahead of budget. We did budget conservatively for payroll contributions coming in. We've exceeded those expectations. And so far, we've, on a cumulative basis, we have, if it will let me go to that tab. Oops, sorry, jumping ahead of myself. Oh, hold on. Oh. I think I just X'd out the tab. I apologize, but we'll talk it through. To date, we have $205 million of payroll contributions coming in. If you're curious where we are to the most recent period, through September 22nd, it's 205.7. So we have another $400,000 since then. But we do have over $198 million in the fund, and we are ahead of our expectations by $113 million. And again, that's due to better than budgeted payroll contributions coming in. The money that we spent thus far has been for the paid leave administration fee to pay its operational expenses. Those are being paid as budgeted. So far that's been $6.8 million and $638,000 in seed repayments. That's our activity through the end of August. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, David. When you talk about the month ended August 31 for payroll contributions, I'm a little confused. The employers generally report on a quarterly basis. So are those contributions for a monthly basis where some employers are providing contributions on a monthly basis, or are those monies captured for delinquent quarters?
A very small part of them are people who have paid for delinquent quarters as they realized, oh, we need, so like the postcards we were sending out, and they were like, oh, we need to pay into that. Well, yes, you do. So a small part of that are delinquent, but a lot of the smaller employees like to pay as they go along. They don't have TPAs. They don't want to hold on to the money. And they expressed an interest that said, we like to pay as we go along. So
Okay.
A preponderance of that money are for employers that pay as they go along.
Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so the next item on the agenda, I believe, is an update on the audit.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just stop sharing my screen for a second. Okay, so As you all know, the audit the audit due date was extended through the end of October. The auditors have indicated that they are on schedule to meet that revised deadline. To date, most of the field work has been done with the audit. We wrapped up alternate procedure work on contributions this week, providing the we provided the documentation to the auditors. They're working on validating that information. I didn't want to imply we were auditing our own work, which is obviously not the case. The IT portion of the audit, we have provided all the information to them as well. A big thanks to Lori and her team, as the IT part of Markham takes a look at our systems, understands our control features, how the information flows and things like that. So as you can imagine, it's the first year. They're getting a first year understanding how everything has worked. So we have provided all that documentation to them. So that is finishing up as well. The current focus right now is on financial statement setup and preparation and all the documents associated with that, including footnotes, the management, the MD&A, management discussion and analysis, and things like that. So we're starting to get knee deep into that, and we'll be continuing that over the next few weeks. Any questions on the audit?
So just a quick question for you, David. Do you get a
Yes.
sense from the questions that you're receiving from the auditors that there's you have confidence in their capabilities? And is there anything surprising that they have asked you about?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I was surprised that they asked about. They seem to be asking the right questions. They seem to be asking for the right things. If Lori was here, she would certainly tell you they have not hesitated asking for any and all the IT documentations on how our systems are working. So yeah,
That's what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah,
That's what I was
yeah.
hoping you would
No,
say. Thank you.
they certainly have not hesitated asking us for anything. And Amy and Locke and Walter can tell you that a lot of their time has been providing documentation for things like I would call like permanent file types of things, and walkthroughs through how the transactions work and things like that we won't necessarily have to do next year unless there's changes or things like that.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anything else or any other questions regarding the audit?
If not, I think that brings us to the hiring update, David.
Okay, great. So we are expanding our contribution staff. We had a position open for a contribution and compliance manager. And after opening that up, we decided that the best move for the authority to make was to promote from within. So I'm happy to announce that Walter Hay has been promoted to our contribution and compliance manager. Walter has shown incredible speed and learning everything and understanding everything, and taking the reins on his own and knowing what needs to be reconciled and balanced and things like that, and working with our IT team. Hey, do you have a report for this? Because it would really help me balance how much money we have and things like that. So since Walter has been promoted, we are searching for a contribution accountant, and that resume has been posted and it's been out there for almost a couple of weeks. And so we should start looking at resumes next week to fill his former position.
Congratulations to Walter.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
congratulations.
Absolutely. Well deserved. And he's definitely running with it. So thank you, Walter. We appreciate everything you do. Since Walter can't do everything, we have hired a contribution examiner, and that will be more of a focus on compliance and collections. Now that we've got things up and running, we're collecting the money, we're reconciling the money, and Walter's got that pretty much under control, and we can hire another contribution accountant where Walter can pass on his knowledge to that individual. We're really focusing more now on follow-up for those that haven't paid in yet that we think we should or have underpaid. And so we're already starting to take actions on that, but we really want to have somebody focused on that full time. So we have filled that position. Jennifer Simpson will be joining us on October 12th. So we look forward to welcoming her next month and continuing the good work that my staff does here in finance. Very proud of them. They work very hard and they keep things going. So I just like to publicly say thank you to my staff for that. Thank you.
Great.
Any questions about the hiring update? Andrea?
I don't necessarily have a question, but you mentioned Jennifer. We know her relevance and importance, but I think the rest of the committee would know that Jennifer is important to us, not only because she's a new hire, but because she was part of the staff at United Way that is supporting us from our contact center. So she knows our program so well and has sort of a self-taught background also in accounting and customer service. She's just a really well-rounded person, not as is the entire team actually at United Way. So we were surprised that she applied and wanted to come over to the Paid Leave Authority, but she's excellent. So we feel very fortunate to have her.
We are indeed, and it's a good fit. So I know United Way is sad to see her go, but at least they're happy she's only a screen or phone call away, and they'll still be working with her going forward. So
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
So David, I think that brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is a discussion about the imprest account and a potential change to the contribution budget. Do you want to lead that discussion?
Yes, I'll start that, and I will share my screen again. Okay. So we are opening up an imprest account with Aflac. And the reason why we're doing that is because in order for Aflac to make the benefit payments, the way the timing works is Aflac makes the payments and on the beginning of the week, and then by the end of the week, the authority reimburses them. In order to make sure that Aflac has adequate funds in order to do so, we need to open up a reserve account with them to make those benefit payments. And that reserve amount has been calculated as $20 million. That is a very conservative estimate. It represents about 2 weeks of benefit payments in a worst case scenario. Aflac had originally asked for more, and so we went back to them and said, well, we'd like to revisit that and come up with a reasonable amount based on what we know and what we're expecting. So we certainly didn't want to leave them hanging or fronting money they didn't have or anything. So it was a mutually agreed upon decision about the number. And so we both agreed upon $20 million. Now that is not a fixed number over the lifetime of the program. It will be reviewed in the future. So once we get some history behind us and the dust settles, we will revisit what the actual benefit payments are. And then our intent is, as after the if there's an initial rush and it goes down, we'll decrease the amount of reserve. The reserve is earning a ECR, an earnings credit rate. So the money's not just sitting there doing nothing. That ECR is comparable to what the money would have earned if it was sitting in the corpus at the office of the treasurer. So we're really not losing anything by it being in this other account. The money's being used to offset bank fees that are being held with Aflac's bank, which is Citibank. And so, I mean, unfortunately, it's still a low interest environment. So we believe that the bank fees will be more than the interest earned. But, you know, the interest is ours. It's offsetting our bank fees. And it'll be that way going forward for sure. So what this necessitates is a change to our current fiscal year budget. Now, over the life of the program, it doesn't really change how we're paying out benefits. It just means that we have to pay a deposit up front for the $20 million. So eventually, whenever the program ends, it just means we don't have to spend that $20 million at the end of it. So over the life of the program, it's basically just a timing difference. But since the program is extending beyond this fiscal year, and we're looking at the budget for just this fiscal year only, we are requesting a change to the budget to account for this $20 million because we didn't have an estimate when we were doing the budget at the early part of the year, and we didn't know how much it was going to be, and the contract wasn't finalized yet, so we didn't have a sense of just how much things were going to be. But now that we do, and it's a decent amount number, we're going to request that the number be included in the contribution budget so people are aware, and it's there and we can account for it properly. So even if, again, it's a worst case scenario, we're certainly will be paying that amount in, I believe it's December 15th that we owe it to Aflac. But again, as time goes on, we'll certainly be revisiting it and taking it down if the situation warrants it. So we are asking the Finance Committee for a recommendation to change the budget to bring to the board.
Thank you. So let me ask a procedural question for Andrea. This does not require a vote of the Finance Committee, correct? This is just a sense of the committee that we would recommend to the full board this change to the contribution budget? Or am I wrong? Does it require a vote by the committee?
No, it doesn't require a vote. We can take one in an abundance of caution that we have a record that the Finance Committee has formally made a recommendation to move this recommended change to the budget forward to the board. It's probably a better idea to do that, but it isn't required. But I would suggest that we do it anyway.
Yeah, I
So
think
it's
that's probably a good idea to have it in the minutes that the board, what the board's sentiment is as it relates to this potential change in the contribution budget.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the full board a change to the fiscal, including the $20 million change.
No second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion prior to holding the vote? If not, all in favor of recommending to the full board the Finance Committee's approval of this change to the contribution budget, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. And Amber, you've captured that in the minutes, correct? Or you will capture that in the minutes for next time.
Yes, I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. So the next item on our agenda, Andrea, is for an update on claims administration.
Yes, so thank you, Paul. We continue to make significant progress in claims administration. I can tell you that as of today, we are 67 days away from December 1st. I know it doesn't seem that way, especially since it's warm and raining, but we are 67 days away from implementation. Hiring and training is actually happening at Aflac. They've reported this week that they have filled 90% of the 150 positions that they have at Aflac, and that they have a number of very qualified candidates that they're continuing to consider to fill the remaining positions. The training modules for those staff and the staff at United Way that will continue to provide us with support are complete, and they will be implemented in the coming weeks. So through most of October and November, with the training continuing so that we can stick to our go live date of December 1st. And as I mentioned at our last board meeting, all of the workflows that would allow for the taking in of benefits is complete. And I think the board also received an email on, that Amber sent on my behalf that introduced the new pages to the website for small businesses and also for employees so that they could really understand how the benefit process works. So all of that has been done in preparation for December 1st. The webinars that we spoke of, there are, I think, close to 30 of them, Amber, if I'm not mistaken, and we may schedule more, began yesterday, and I will be hosting one about an hour from now or maybe a little bit later this morning. And they are directed at HR professionals, at employers and workers. And there are probably about 8 or 9 of those for each one of those categories of users. And the idea is to try to provide as much education as possible around how this will work. Now, with respect to the, I'm looking at Daryl because I'm thinking of this. With respect to the appeals process, we're actually making a lot of progress there too. And so, as you know, the Department of Labor is responsible for hearing appeals for denials of either FMLA or paid leave benefits, or penalties that are imposed for a failure to comply with the paid leave benefit plan or the statute. And so we're working in really close collaboration with the Department of Labor to select a vendor that will be able to build a system that will automate the appeals process in conjunction with whoever their vendor partner is that's eventually chosen. I think we have some meetings that are scheduled today and next week so that work can move forward quickly, because we know that as soon as applications will be taken in, there's a likelihood that someone will be unhappy with some decision that has been made and an appeal may be filed. So we want to make sure that that system is up and running for people to have access to their right to file an appeal as they are entitled to under the statute. And that is essentially the update on the claims administration right now. I don't know if I can answer any questions that the committee might have.
Andrea, I have one question. From the other states that you're communicating with, Massachusetts, excuse me, Washington, do we have any sense what the appeal rate might be? I mean, what their experience is?
We do. So Washington State in particular said their appeal rate is very low. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of less than 1%. And the reason it's so low is that they really try to resolve the issues before it goes to appeal, which is the process that we've, based on their experience and their advice, that's the process that we've built as well. So if someone gets an adverse claims decision, that's automatically reviewed internally by Aflac. And then if that decision is still adverse to the claimant, it then comes to us at the Paid Leave Authority. And in addition to the hiring that Dave is doing for his team, Amir Khan, who's leading our benefits effort, is adding 5 people to his staff that are already part of our budget that will also be doing that quality assurance. And they'll also be doing that secondary review of claims that have been denied, so that we can get the claims denial process moving more quickly and get claimants a final decision that may be reversed. It may be held up. It may be adhered to. I don't know. We don't know, but that'll happen more quickly. And that's the process that Washington uses. And then when the person has exhausted that process, then they can file their appeal. But this is to say they're not barred from filing appeal. There's no administrative bar. So they're not required to exhaust all of their so-called administrative remedies before they go to the Department of Labor. But we're encouraging people to use that internal process because it's probably a lot quicker than it would be if they were to file an appeal at DOL, because it's, that's just a process that would take longer than the day or two that it would take for us to look at the policy and to look at the policies, our policies, to look at the application and to look at the decision that was made and let that person know one way or the other what it is that had been decided overall.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay.
All right.
So yeah,
If
that
not-
concludes my report, Paul. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Andrea. That brings us to sort of the concluding section of our agenda. Is there any old business that any of the committee members would like to raise?
I have a question about an old business topic. I wonder if somebody can review the where we are with the revised actuarial report. I know we have Locke's email from the end of August with the final draft. Can somebody just kind of go through where we are going from here?
Yeah, so there have been several final drafts, and that's where we're going from here. So they give us a final draft, we share it, they share it with us, we review it. There's still a few sections that I'd like them to refine a bit, so it's sitting with me right now. And I hope to be able to get through that in the next few days. I plan to look at it again this weekend and through the next week. And then I think we'll be in a position to turn that back over to the actuaries to make those revisions. And then we'll be able to bring it back to the committee for their review.
Okay. I'm just thinking about the timing, because if there's any decision to be made,
Yes,
we have 67 days to make it, right?
I understand. I understand. So I can, without getting into an enormous amount of detail, I can tell you that what they've shared with us to date does not indicate that we need to make a change to the contribution rate.
Mhm. Okay.
But once I have that, we can walk through that in more detail.
Okay.
Or so I wouldn't wait for the 67th day if we got something that says things are really dire. Trust me.
Right,
So,
right.
no.
So Andrea, when you do have something ready to share, what is the process? Is it there's going to be a presentation at the Finance and Audit Committee and some of the other committees of the authority to walk through
Yes.
the updated report?
Yes, that's exactly what we will do.
And is there a vote that would be required, or is it really more informational in case the board decides it wants to take some action, like changing benefit levels or whatever?
There would be a vote if the board decided that it wanted to change the benefit level. It's not specifically spelled out in the statute that a vote is required for that. It empowers the authority to make that decision. But because it's such a significant decision, again, just like today, my recommendation would be that that is done in the form of a motion, and that there's significant discussion, and that we have a vote on that. If Erin were here, she'd
Understood.
probably also tell you it might be a change to a policy, and she may take a different route. But for right now, it would be a vote, and so that's what would happen. So I know that the time is growing short, and I won't take too much longer to review it, and I will have it soon.
All right. And is it your sense that that would be something we would be reviewing in the month of October?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is absolutely the plan.
Okay.
That's the intent. Yes.
Are there other items of old business? If not, any items of new business that anyone would like to raise? Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing none. The last item on our agenda is adjournment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second, Daryl.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I don't hear anyone opposed or abstentions. So thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And we will be talking again next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take
Everyone,
care.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Have a great
everyone.
day.
Bye.